Welcome to the newest episode of Whether or Not. We have your nature in the news stories, including volcano vortices and Delaware River watershed funding. Andy will have your upcoming week's forecast, and Jake has a feature on air quality. Stay right where you are. Whether or Not starts right now. Welcome, everybody. I'm your host, Kristy Steward.
And I'm your forecaster, Andy Moffitt.
Well, Andy, we had a gorgeous Easter weekend, and then it seems that Mother Nature had an April Fool's joke of her own, and we're back to winter.
Yes, she did, and it looks like that April Fool's joke is going to stick around a little bit longer. There's a chance of some snow even this weekend, and next week looks like we'll be below average. I'll have much more on that coming up in my forecast.
Well, I'm not excited to hear about that, but first, here's Nature in the News. One of the rarest documented cloud formations was spotted just last month over Battle Mountain, Nevada. Some argue it looks like a mustache or a staple, but it's actually called a horseshoe cloud. These rare clouds form when rotating air or changes in wind speed and direction with altitude create spin. Gently rising air then forces part of the cloud upward. Even though horseshoe clouds are rarely spotted, we were lucky enough to have one form right over the top of us here in State College just last summer. AccuWeather meteorologist Jesse Farrell captured our little wonder on July 24th, 2017. He said it was the first one he's seen in his 43 years of photographing clouds.
A majority of Pennsylvanians still support the natural gas industry, but a new opinion poll shows the number of people concerned about its environmental impact is growing. A Franklin and Marshall State Impact Pennsylvania poll found that 50% of respondents said that they support the gas industry, while 42% say they don't. But dig a little deeper and another picture emerges. In the latest poll conducted in late March, 55% say the environmental risks of fracking are greater than its economic benefits. A few years ago, that number was in the 30s. That's a real change, said Berwert Yost, director of the Center for Opinion and Research at Franklin and Marshall, which conducted the poll. He thinks more people worry about the environmental risks of fracking now because the economy has improved and because of reports of the industry's environmental impacts.
Landspouts over a volcano are quite the sight to see. Last week, a helicopter pilot flew over the erupting Kilauea volcano in Hawaii and spotted this rare phenomenon. It's common to see waterspouts form in the ocean after a massive lava quickly flows into the water, but it's never been seen over the volcano before. These vortices of steam arose from the perfect combination of rain, wind, and heat. Rainwater seeped into the cracks in the lava field, creating steam that began to swirl from the wind and made a landspout. The pilot said these vortices were also accompanied by an unusual pink rainbow.
Philadelphia's William Penn Foundation says it is injecting an additional $42 million into protecting the Delaware River watershed, an area encompassing thousands of square miles that provides drinking water and recreation to people in 4 states. The money, to be spent over 3 years, will bring the total to more than $100 million the foundation has pledged to the Delaware River Watershed Initiative, which began in 2014. Janet Haas, chairwoman of the foundation, made the announcement Wednesday at Adventure Aquarium on the Camden waterfront. The initiative funds and coordinates efforts among 65 nonprofits working to protect the watershed, which covers all the land and waterways that ultimately funnel and filter rainwater into the Delaware River. The groups pool resources, provide scientific expertise, restore wetlands, buy land, and monitor water quality at 500 stations. The watershed provides drinking water for more than 15 million people in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. And unfortunately, if you're tired of the cold weather and the snow, we're going to be with it for a little bit longer here in central Pennsylvania. The day on Friday looks to be pretty messy across much of the Northeast. Snow for much of New England, a mixed bag of precipitation here in central Pennsylvania, and further to the south, some rain. As this weather system moves off towards the northeast into the day on Saturday, that is when we will transition to mainly snow late Friday night into Saturday. There's a chance of some accumulations, especially Saturday morning, so you might need to have that snow shovel still out. Don't put it away quite yet. And then on Sunday, a much better day, some sun around the area, but a weather system looming again on the horizon. I'll have more on that in the extended forecast. First, though, your forecast for this weekend, Friday, looks to be, like I said, a mixed bag of precipitation. So morning snow possible, will quickly warm up into the 50s here in State College, and unfortunately, that's the warmest temperature you'll see here for quite some time, especially through the rest of the weekend. Some afternoon rain, and then as we head into Friday night, a quick cool down, 26 degrees for your low temperature, snow likely late Friday into early Saturday morning, and that's when those accumulations will occur. The high temperature above freezing Saturday, so the snow will quickly melt, but there is a chance for some accumulations early Saturday morning. As we head into the day on Sunday, warmer but still well below average. Temperatures this time of year are averaging in the mid-50s, so definitely a chilly day for the early April season. 40 degrees for your high temperature and mostly sunny skies here in State College. And now Jake has a feature on air quality.
When you think of weather forecasting, your mind naturally wanders over to variables like temperature and wind, precipitation, cloud cover, and so forth. But have you ever thought about air quality as a forecast variable? Well, as it turns out, this is especially important for those suffering from cardiovascular or respiratory issues, as air quality can mean the difference between life and death. Here at Penn State, we have researchers who forecast air quality for the Mid-Atlantic region, and I wanted to know what they do, how they do it, and why it's so important in our day-to-day lives. For those who might be sensitive to air quality, including those with asthma, heart disease, the very young or elderly, knowing how dirty the air is can impact their day-to-day life. Penn State professor and researcher Amy Huff explained to me why air quality forecasting is so important.
So air quality forecasting is important because we're protecting public health. We're particularly interested in protecting the people, the groups who are most sensitive to the impacts of air pollution.
Here in Pennsylvania, there are 5 zones where air quality is forecast daily. Dr. Huff's main focus is on the Philadelphia metro area as well as the state of Delaware. According to Dr. Huff, the difference between air quality forecasting and weather forecasting are few and far between. But just like in weather forecasting, you forecast variables in air quality. In this case, it's the 2 primary pollutants, fine particulate matter and ozone.
So ozone is a very strong oxidant. It will react with the mucous membranes and the linings of your respiratory system, and it will damage it. Fine particulate matter can be high year-round, so we forecast that every day, all year. And this is a problem because it causes some of the same effects as ozone does. These particles are very, very small, so you can inhale them and they can reach deep into your lungs. And they can actually cross over from your lungs into your bloodstream. So in order to be able to predict air quality, we first need to know what the weather's going to be. All right. So particularly we're interested in synoptic scale weather patterns, so where the highs and lows and the warm fronts and cold fronts are. And we also, particularly in the summertime, have to be very aware of mesoscale meteorology. So things like bay breezes, for example, and sea breezes can have a big impact on ozone forecasting during the summertime. With ozone, it's a photochemical pollutant, so we need to know how much sunlight there is going to be. So on very sunny days, we'll get more ozone production. Then on cloudy days, of course, we have less ozone production. So days when it's going to be very warm and sunny and we're going to have very light winds and a very shallow boundary layer, limited vertical mixing, these are the days when we have the highest ozone, typically in the Mid-Atlantic. For PM 2.5, it's a little bit more complicated because we can have peaks in PM 2.5 fine particles during the wintertime and summertime. And in the Mid-Atlantic, we actually have nowadays the highest PM 2.5 during the wintertime. So what we're looking for here are days when it's very cold and moist at the surface. PM 2.5 is enhanced when we have high atmospheric humidity and cold weather. And then we add to that our knowledge of of how the different chemicals, ozone and PM 2.5, how they're formed and destroyed in the atmosphere. And then we add that to our knowledge of what the current pollutant conditions are, both locally and upwind, because advection or transport of pollutant concentrations from upwind is also an important contributor to air quality forecasting.
And on days where air quality is expected to be less than ideal, you can expect to see warnings posted almost everywhere you expect.
We call these days air quality alert days. And when we have these forecasts, we issue an alert to the public that goes out on the National Weather Service's watches and warnings pages. And so people will also get emails that have signed up to receive information about air quality. And also anybody that has a cell phone knows when you pull up any sort of weather app, it'll have the watches and warnings that'll come up as a banner.
Air quality forecasting is particularly paramount during the summer months when the most air quality alerts tend to be issued due to the summer warmth and forest fires. Dr. Huff recalls a May 2016 event where the Fort McMurray fire in Alberta, Canada caused air quality issues here in Pennsylvania.
Smoke from that fire about a month later after the fire started made its way to the mid-Atlantic region, and it gave us the highest ozone that we've seen in probably 5 or 6 years. So this is a really big issue for air quality forecasting now in the mid-Atlantic region, and it's something that we really have to keep an eye on as we move forward into the future.
So in conclusion, even though air quality forecasting may be a little more intrinsically detailed and requires a little more tender loving care than regular weather forecasting, the end result provides a great service to those who might be adversely impacted by bad air quality around them. Now, if you want to find out the air quality in your area on a particular day, log on to airnow.gov for the air quality readings in your area, as well as a forecast for the next couple of days. For Weather or Not, I'm Jake Langedyk.
And thank you for staying with us. I'm back now with the extended forecast, and unfortunately, it's not as warm as I would like, and probably as you would like as well. But first, let's take a look at the weekend recap. Again, Friday, 51 degrees. That's the warmest temperature even on the extended forecast, which I'll show in a second. But look at these overnight lows in the mid to low 20s. So it is going to be chilly with some accumulating snow possible Saturday morning. Sunday, though, looks to be the best day of the weekend, even though the high temperature is only 40 degrees. Looking at the extended forecast Monday, another chance of some snow showers. Temperatures down near 40. We warm up a little for Tuesday and some rain possible. And then Wednesday looks to be a dry day. Thursday and Friday, we do warm up towards 50 degrees, approaching average, but we're not quite going to get there, I don't think. And it looks like a little bit more precipitation in the area for Thursday and Friday.
Unfortunately, it looks like we'll have to wait a little bit longer for spring to arrive as we have a bit of a cold start to the week ahead.
Yeah, we definitely do, and we might hit average temperatures by the end of the week, but the good news is that these cooler temperatures and these weather systems we've been having have been helping to keep the air in State College clean.
Clean air is always good, and speaking of clean air, earlier in the show we asked you, when was the Clean Air Act first signed into law? Was it A, 1954, B, 1959, C, 1963, or D, 1974? If you guessed C, you are correct. The Clean Air Act is widely regarded as one of the most comprehensive and influential modern air quality laws in the world.
Signed by President Lyndon Johnson, the Clean Air Act set pollution standards, enacted limits on car emissions, and helped establish the Environmental Protection Agency. According to the EPA, by 2020, the regulations will have saved 230,000 lives and prevented over 17 million workdays from being lost. It's pretty astonishing how much that's helped.
Wow, yeah, I'm glad that that law was signed into effect.
Definitely helping keep the air clean here and around the country.
Yes, that's always good. Well, that's all that we have for this week's episode of Whether or Not. I've been your host, Kristy Steward.
And I've been your forecaster, Andy Moffitt.
Have a great week, everybody.